Sean Combs. You hear that name, and it just brings up this whole era of music, fashion, and, business. For decades, the guy was an icon, a true mogul who built the hip-hop empire from the absolute ground up. He became one of the most influential producers of his generation, no question. But this is the story of how that empire came completely crashing down. So let's get into it. The rise and the incredible fall of Sean Diddy Combs. Okay, picture this. It's September 2023. Not that long ago, Sean Combs is at the absolute peak, the zenith of his public acclaim. He's being handed the key to his hometown, New York City, by the mayor himself. I mean, what a symbolic moment, right? A full-circle honor for the kid from Harlem, who basically conquered the world. It really felt like his legacy was set in stone. And then, boom, this. Less than a year later, the whole story just completely flips on its head. This quote from Forbes really says it all, doesn't it? It captures the insane speed and just the total nature of this collapse. From the key to the city to an empire in rubble. So how on earth did we get here? To really understand the fall, you've got to first understand the empire he built. So let's go all the way back to the beginning. Combs didn't just get lucky and appear on the scene. He was the architect of his own success, and he was meticulous about it. It all started with an internship at Uptown Records. That's where he really sharpened his skills, made all the right connections. But his ambition, it was always way, way bigger. Big enough to start a record label that would pretty much define the entire sound of the 90s. I mean, his rise was just meteoric. After that internship at Uptown, where he helped launch huge careers for people like Mary J. Blige, he went off and founded Bad Boy Entertainment. He was just 23 years old. The label's first massive success was the notorious B.I.G.'s classic album, Ready to Die. By 1995, Bad Boy wasn't just a top label, it was the top hip-hop label in the game. And even after the absolute tragedy of Biggie's death in 1997, the label had one of its most profitable years ever. But here's the thing, Diddy's ambition was never just about the music. He had this brilliant knack for taking hip-hop culture and weaving it right into the mainstream. He launched the Sean John fashion line, which became this huge cultural phenomenon. Then he partnered with Diageo for Ciroc Vodka, a wildly successful deal. And then he founded the Revolt TV network. See, he was building this whole multifaceted lifestyle empire, and he was really just getting started. So for years, this empire just seemed invincible. Combs was a master of reinvention, always one step ahead. But then, in late 2023, the first major cracks began to show. And these weren't small cracks. These were cracks that would quickly splinter into a complete structural collapse, revealing a much, much darker side to the story. This was the turning point. November 2023. His former girlfriend, the singer Cassie Ventura, filed a bombshell lawsuit. The allegations were incredibly severe, detailing a decade of alleged abuse. Now, the suit was settled just one day after it was filed, and Combs stated the settlement wasn't an admission of wrongdoing. But it was too late. The floodgates were officially open. After Cassie's lawsuit, it was like a dam broke. A whole cascade of other suits followed. Multiple plaintiffs came forward with really similar disturbing allegations. And then the situation escalated dramatically. In March 2024, Homeland Security agents raided Combs' properties in LA and Miami. I mean, that's a huge deal. It was a clear signal that he was the target of a very serious federal investigation, and the whole world was watching. And then came the video. Surveillance footage from a hotel back in 2016 surfaced, and it appeared to show him physically assaulting Ventura. The images were just undeniable, and they sparked a whole new wave of public outrage. About 48 hours later, Combs released a video apology. He didn't say her name, but he called his own actions disgusting. For a lot of people, that was it. That was the point of no return. So with all the civil suits piling up and this federal investigation in full swing, the next big step was pretty much inevitable, a formal indictment. And prosecutors used this really powerful legal tool to frame their case, one that would paint a picture of a criminal enterprise operating right under the cover of a successful business empire. The main charge was racketeering conspiracy. You've probably heard it called a RICO charge. This is a heavy-hitting legal tool, usually reserved for prosecuting organized crime. The indictment basically alleged that Combs' network of businesses, Bad Boy Combs Enterprises, all of it, wasn't just a business. It was the Combs Enterprise, a criminal organization that used to carry out and cover up a whole list of crimes. The language they used in the indictment is frankly chilling. It outlines what they called the means and methods of this enterprise. It details this whole alleged system of luring victims, using coercion for sex acts they called freak-offs, distributing drugs, and using employees, everyone from assistants to security, to help make it all happen and then conceal it. And look, this isn't just media speculation or gossip. This is the official federal indictment, filed right here in the Southern District of New York. This document laid out the entire government's case against Sean Combs in painstaking detail, and it set the stage for a trial that would have the entire nation captivated, and really put the whole music industry under a microscope. So after 6 weeks of really intense, emotional testimony from 34 different prosecution witnesses, including Cassie Ventura herself, the case finally went to the jury, and the world just held its breath, waiting. The fate of this entire empire was hanging in the balance. And on July 2nd, 2025, the jury came back with the split verdict. Now, they found Combs not guilty of the two biggest charges, racketeering conspiracy and sex trafficking. However, they found him guilty on 2 counts of transportation for prostitution. That's a violation of the Mann Act, which is a federal law against taking people across state lines for immoral purposes. And the consequence for that guilty verdict was definitive. On October 3rd, 2025, the judge sentenced Sean Combs to 4 years and 2 months in federal prison. The king of hip-hop, the man who built an entire empire from nothing, was headed to jail. Now, while the legal battle finally reached its conclusion, the damage to the Combs empire was already done. And it wasn't just a setback, it was a total systematic collapse. A really brutal end to a story that for so long had been seen as a symbol of the American dream. The numbers themselves tell a pretty crazy story. Back in 2019, Forbes estimated his net worth was around $740 million. By 2024, with all the legal troubles piling up, that number had plummeted to $400 million. That's a loss of over $300 million, a catastrophic financial fallout. And a huge reason for that financial fall, his partners started running for the hills. Diageo ended that Ciroc and De Leon partnership that had made him hundreds of millions. He sold his majority stake in Revolt TV, the network he built from scratch. And major retailers like Macy's dropped his Sean John fashion line. The very brands he'd so carefully built were suddenly toxic. This quote from an employee in a business connected to Combs just captures the whole cultural shift perfectly. Being associated with Diddy went from being this mark of prestige, a flex, to a major liability. His name, once synonymous with success, was now synonymous with scandal. So, what happens now? As the dust starts to settle on one of the most stunning falls from grace in modern culture, the question really goes far beyond just one man's legacy. This whole situation forces a hard look at the systems of power, of silence, and accountability inside the entire music industry. Will this be a real catalyst for change, a turning point for an industry that's been criticized for its treatment of artists for decades? Or will it just become another chapter in a long, troubled history? Honestly, that remains to be seen.